Huzzah! I'm Spider, and welcome to the Jacks Rangers, a New England Free Jacks podcast. And here is your host, Phil Harris. Yeah!
Huzzah, Rangers. This is Phil Harris again here at the Jacks Rangers show. I've got a very special guest with us, Bryan Ray from America's Rugby News, also a frequent guest on the Rugby Wrap Up. Bryan, how the hell are you?
I'm doing all right. For a crazy Tuesday.
Yeah. Plug your social media and your website. Go ahead and do that for us.
Well, you can find us pretty easily, americasrugbynews.com. And if you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at Ray's Rugby, R-A-Y-S Rugby.
Very nice. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Toronto in Canada.
Very nice. And now you're in Halifax?
Now right? I'm in Halifax, yeah. So a little bit closer to New England.
You're 1 hour ahead of us, is that right?
Yeah, I'm on Atlantic time. Yeah, it's
wow. You're calling in from the future.
Sure.
So let's see here. What is your origin story with rugby? How did you find rugby?
Oh, wow. Well, I was actually just kind of walking out of high school one day at the end of classes, and I guess practice was starting up for the guys team in the spring, and one of the guys just grabbed me and said, "Hey, we're going to rugby practice. You want to go?" And I said, "Sure." And that was it. And I was hooked. And I played 5 years in high school and then university and then club. Did some coaching. I was a senior referee for a decade or so anyways. And I've been writing about rugby for close to about 25 years now, I guess.
Wow, that's incredible. So you must be really excited that MLR exists now.
Yeah, it's really the greatest thing ever. And it's just a shame it wasn't around 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
What can you do?
Where does your passion for the Toronto Arrows come from?
Well, the only Canadian team. But I know. I mean, I grew up in Toronto. I'm from Toronto. So, I just wish they were around when I was younger to go and check them out. It was just the club scene back then. We had kind of some Super League teams back in the day when that existed. But no, we always needed a professional side. So I'm just excited that there is actually one for Canadian players to aspire to now. So that's pretty much it.
Any insight about a second franchise in Canada?
I mean, I've been banging the drum to get Vancouver for a while, but it's expensive. I mean, it's not like you can just snap your fingers and make it happen. We were really hopeful that they were going to have it kind of back in 2018. There was actually an announcement, but it just didn't come through. There's been other talk along the way of various other, groups trying to put their money in, but nobody's just stepped up to the plate yet with the dollars. So, it's just a matter of time. I'm sure eventually somewhere in Canada we'll have another one. I would think that Vancouver would be MLR's number one preferred spot. So, fingers crossed one day it happens.
One day, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right. So what type of brand of rugby does Toronto play at this point in the season?
What kind of brand of rugby? They're pretty heavy on their backs moves. Their attack. You've seen this year, they don't have the biggest forwards this season. They really aren't smashing people. They had, some big guys last year, Paul Cellini, Tyler Rowland was pretty beefy, but they lost a lot of weight action in the offseason. So they're just not a big bulky side anymore. So they really kind of use their systems, and they use a lot of backline moves. You'll see, Sammy Malcolm just came back from Japan. They got Joaquin Tuculet, the Argentinian, Manuel Montero, and the two Pumas who are really deadly attackers. So they use those guys really effectively. So I think that's what you'll see if the weather cooperates this weekend.
Gotcha. What do the Arrows do well at this point in the season as a team, and what do they need to improve on?
Well, we're at the end of the season, so there's not much time left to improve on stuff, I would say. A lot of it has to do with confidence. And, these guys are pretty worn down. I mean, it's pretty hard to spend an entire season on the road. That was the big question heading in. Were they going to be able to cope with that? I mean, that's a crazy stretch to think about, 4 months straight, constant road trip, living out of a hotel. It's just about getting motivated and getting confidence is really what they've got to deal with heading into this weekend. As far as what they do well, just like I said, their backs are deadly. If you give them any space, it's going to be problems. if you're talking about the Free Jacks, they got some pretty good ones themselves. So I think that's going to be an exciting contest. Again, their forwards aren't necessarily the most dominant or anything at the moment, but I would say the same. They're probably a very similar side of the Free Jacks. Actually, neither side have a particularly big pack, so it should be a pretty even contest.
Very nice. And even though we're getting close to the end of the season, there's always room for improvement.
Okay.
Let's see here. What else we got for you? The Arrows have lost a lot of players due to international call-ups. What players do the Free Jacks need to be aware of going into this game? The fans may not know everybody that plays on the Arrows. Who is their danger man now that all these players are gone?
It's got to be one of those outside backs. I guess I'll single out Sammy Malcolm since he just came back, and then fans maybe haven't had a chance. If they're new this season, they definitely haven't had a chance to see him yet. He was a star last year. 2 years ago, their first season, he was their number 10. Last year, he moved to fullback and did it really. He fit in really well at that position. That's where I suspect he'll be playing. He played this past weekend. That's where I suspect he'll be playing this coming weekend. He's small, but he's very quick, runs really smart lines, and he's nicknamed Sammy the Boot because he's a ridiculously accurate goal kicker. So, but then he wasn't kicking last week, and it was Taylor Adams. So, they kind of spoiled for choice in that department, but he's definitely a guy to watch.
Gotcha. Who has the best hair on the Arrows? We both are follically challenged here.
The best hair on the Arrows. Man, that's a good question. I have to I'm just going to have to pull this out. Normally I would have said like Andrew Quattrin, but he's away with the Canada side, so you won't be able to see that this weekend. There's not really anybody with really wild hair at the moment, so maybe that's kind of disappointing. Now, maybe Manuel Montero, the Argentine, the big winger, he's hard to miss. He's got kind of flowing locks a bit. They're not overly crazy right now, but they are kind of signature South American style.
Yeah, very nice. I love that. The mullets are fantastic in MLR. It makes me very jealous. I wish I could grow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. What teams do you dislike in MLR and why?
What teams do I dislike in MLR or why? I don't really dislike any teams. I'm so happy that if you're going to pick one, the Giltinis, because they got a terrible name and, they're the show ponies and all that, but I don't really dislike them necessarily. I'm just not a fan of the brand and all that. I was tempted to say New York because that's Matt McCarthy's team, but no, we'll go with the Giltinis.
Perfect answer. I dislike both of those teams. So yeah. Now, there's a lot of talk, well, not a lot of talk, but some people will say because we're regionally kind of close, New England and Toronto, is this a rivalry game in your opinion? Do you see it as a rivalry? Obviously, because of COVID, they're playing in Atlanta, so it takes away some of that. But are we rivals?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Boston and Toronto kind of have a long history of sporting, competition back and forth. And remember, the very first New England Free Jacks game was played in Halifax against the Ontario Arrows, which the Toronto Arrows before they were renamed. So there's quite a history between the two clubs. So yeah, I would call it a rivalry game.
So we like to call it the Kings of the North game. So whoever wins is Don King of the North.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Let's see what else we got here. What is your key to the game for Toronto against the Free Jacks? What do you think they need to do to win?
Yeah, it's just about, they've got some guys who kind of joined the team late this season. When they lost, all their internationals, they brought in some guys. So getting those guys to gel a little bit more with the system and just having that confidence to go out and kind of play. At this point, there's no pressure on. They broke their losing streak this past weekend, so the pressure is all off. It's just go out and have fun. So I'm hoping they can just relax and fit into that style and play some exciting rugby.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people would look at Toronto and say, well, they've lost so many players with the international call-ups, but that didn't stop them from beating DC in the previous games. So, I mean, who knows?
Yeah. You got to remember, there's still a lot of internationals on the team. I mean, Montero and Tukule were, superstar Pumas at their very best. That's nothing to shake a stick at. I mean, they're playing against the best teams in the world on a regular basis. And there's still lots of Canadian internationals, Rob Brower, Paul Cellini's out there. Thomas de la Vega, I forgot him, another Pumas flanker who's outstanding. So, Andrew Ferguson, Canadian scrum half, had a blinder against Old Glory. So there's still lots of talent. Giuseppe Dutoit, the inside center, the captain right now, Canadian international. So there's still plenty of danger out there to be aware of.
Yeah, so I mean, Toronto is definitely still a dangerous team that the Free Jacks should not take lightly. And this is an away game; they're playing it in Atlanta, so the Free Jacks will have to travel down there as well. What is your score prediction of the game?
Score prediction. Well, I mean, I'm a bit of a homer, so I have to pick the Arrows. We'll say I think it'll be an entertaining game, so I'll say like 27-24 Arrows. So I think it'll be something similar. I haven't looked at the weather forecast, but if it's like what we saw this past weekend, I think the score will be similar to what we saw in that Old Glory game. So a pretty close one either way.
All right, very cool, Mr. Ray. We're going to have just one word association here, and then we'll get you out of here. So Atlanta, Georgia. What do you think about Atlanta? First word that comes to mind.
First word that comes to mind when I think about Atlanta. Killer Mike. Is that two? That's two words. Yeah.
All right.
He's one of my favorite rappers, so we'll go with him.
This is a fun one. Matt McCarthy of Rugby Wrap Up.
What do I think of?
Yeah.
Shiny Dome.
Poutine.
Cheese curds, man.
Okay. What do you think about Mags, the CEO of the Free Jacks?
Alex Magleby. For some reason, I always picture him walking around with snowshoes on out in the forest. I don't know why.
Drinking maple syrup.
Yeah, totally. The outdoorsy fella.
What about Free Jacks?
Free Jacks. Well, I mean, you got that fantastic logo. I mean, that's you wear it on your hat. Yeah. That's the shining light leading the way. Just it fits it. It's perfect.
All right. Final thing here. Guillotines.
Yeah. I don't know. Gross. Does that work?
I appreciate your time very much. That was awesome. Hopefully we'll have you again on at some point in the future.
Yeah, anytime. Looking forward to this weekend. Hope people enjoy the game.